If it ain't broken, don't fix
Break it.
Leave it alone. Yeah, that's it. If it ain't broke, break it. Like, leave these stories alone. By the way,
Hollywood has seen some flops, but this is next level. Disney's live-action Snow White has officially bombed at the box office, and you best believe the internet is eating it alive. Conservatives, who have been side-eyeing this remake from the start, are now out with their pitchforks. And everywhere they go, there's only one thing they're saying: we told you so. Of course, they're not wrong. Let's talk about the brutal reality. Disney poured a mind-blowing $250 million into this movie, but its opening weekend haul was a measly $43 million in the US and Canada, falling below even its already low expectations. For context, The Little Mermaid made nearly $100 million in its first weekend. Even Cinderella, which came out nearly a decade ago, raked in $67.8 million. So, yeah, this is bad. But honestly, no one should be surprised. The warning signs were there long before opening night. Hollywood loves a good remake, but with every new casting announcement comes an avalanche of online debates. And Snow White is no exception. When Rachel Zegler, the West Side Story, landed the iconic Disney role, she quickly found herself in the middle of a social media firestorm. So what was the issue exactly? Some fans weren't thrilled that a Latina actress was cast as the fairy tale character described as having skin as white as snow.
In the original fairy tale, she is named Snow White because she has white skin. And that is what the name refers to. She has skin as white as snow. That's why she's named Snow White.
Sound familiar? It's the same controversy that surrounded Halle Bailey's casting as Ariel in The Little Mermaid. But Zegler wasn't about to sit quietly. Yes, I am Snow White. No, I am not bleaching my skin for the role, she clapped back in a since-deleted post, according to the Wall Street Journal. She didn't stop there, taking aim at the backlash by calling out losers obsessed with maintaining the bloodline purity of a cartoon princess. Still, she didn't let the controversy dim her excitement. Speaking to Andrew Garfield for Variety in 2022, she addressed the uproar with a mix of perspective and defiance. "We need to love them in the right direction," she said. "At the end of the day, I have a job to do that I'm really excited to do. I get to be a Latina princess." And just in case the online chatter wasn't loud enough, she sent one last message in 2023. "Extremely appreciative of the love I feel from those defending me online, but please don't tag me in the nonsensical discourse about my casting." In other words, Zegler wanted no part in the online drama. Now, it became clear Rachel wasn't one to hold back. But when she started talking about the OG Snow White story, the internet exploded. Ever since landing the role, the West Side Story star made it clear this wouldn't be the same 1937 fairy tale that generations grew up with. And let's just say, that didn't sit well with everyone. Disney fans and conservative critics wasted no time calling her out. Some claim she was trashing the very film that made Snow White a legend. Conservative commentator Matt Walsh even accused Disney of tanking its own movie before it hit theaters, pointing out that their leading lady had spent months publicly criticizing the original, and he wasn't the only one raising eyebrows. At Disney's D23 Expo, Zegler didn't hold back. She took aim at the original Snow White, saying its romance felt outdated, and even went as far as calling the prince's actions stalker-like.
I mean, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird. So we didn't do that this time.
She made it clear, this new version wouldn't be about a girl waiting for love to save her. The remake had no interest in repeating the past. Despite casting Andrew Burnap as a male lead, Zegler insisted that the film wasn't a love story at all. In fact, she thought that was the best part. Now, some fans cheered her on, saying an independent modern Snow White was exactly what the world needed. Others, though, they were furious and went on to argue that if Disney wanted to reinvent Snow White so drastically, why remake it at all? One thing was certain, Snow White wasn't just a fairy tale. By this point, it had already become a battleground. And somehow, the controversy didn't stop there. Even when she praises the 1937 classic, people are finding reasons to come for her. In a resurfaced interview with Entertainment Weekly, Zegler made a shocking confession. She had actually been terrified of Snow White as a kid.
That is just so appealing and so special.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. Like, I'm being so serious. I watched it once and then I went on the ride in Disney World, which was called Snow White's Scary Adventures.
Guess what? She avoided watching it for over a decade and only sat through it again when prepping for the remake. But that wasn't the real jaw-dropper. she also called the original movie extremely dated when it came to women's roles, making it clear that this Snow White would be a total rebrand. Forget beauty, the fairest of them all would now mean the most just. But just when you thought things couldn't get any wilder, the internet found something new to be mad about. Zegler once posted a vintage-style photo of herself styled like Adriana Caselotti, the original voice of Snow White. A cute homage, right? Wrong. Disney diehards flipped, accusing her of disrespecting Caselotti's legacy. At this point, one thing was crystal clear. No matter what Rachel Zegler said or did, the Snow White controversy wasn't going away. But while everyone was trying to process the new Snow White society with a completely revamped plot, another bombshell dropped out of nowhere. Disney decided to sprinkle some modern magic on Snow White, casting a Latina actress in the lead role. But when it came to the Seven Dwarfs, let's just say their idea of a fairy tale glow-up missed the mark big time. For decades, Snow White's Seven Dwarfs have been a staple in pop culture. But when Disney announced its live-action remake, it became clear that they were not casting actual actors with dwarfism. And that's when Game of Thrones legend Peter Dinklage let Disney have it. On a 2022 episode of WTF with Mark Maron, he torched the studio for what he called selective progressiveness.
You're progressive in one way, but you're still making that fucking backward story of seven dwarves living in a cave. What the are you doing, man?
Sure, they were patting themselves on the back for casting a diverse lead, but somehow they completely overlooked their outdated portrayal of dwarf characters. He was fuming, to say the least. Take a step back and look at what you're doing there. It makes no sense to me, Dinklage fired off, calling out the hypocrisy. Now, some fans backed Dinklage, agreeing that Hollywood needed to do better. Others clapped back, arguing that Snow White is, well, a fairy tale, not a social commentary. But the bottom line was that Disney was still taking away acting jobs that could have been given to people with dwarfism for something that seemed pretty superficial. And even Dylan Postal came out to call them out for this.
This isn't a part of this about the stereotype.
Right.
This is about roles that were made for people of my stature that don't have the chance to go out for other roles normally.
Either way, the Snow White drama train just kept chugging. Dinklage's comments went viral, and just like that, Disney was backed into a corner. Within days, the studio rushed out a statement promising that the dwarfs would be given a modern reevaluation. They assured fans that they were working with members of the dwarfism community and would be taking a different approach to avoid reinforcing stereotypes. It was the classic "we hear you" PR move, but the question lingered, what exactly did that mean for the film? Fast forward to 2023, when the Daily Mail leaked on-set photos from the Snow White production, and that's when things took another wild turn. Instead of the traditional seven dwarfs, the images showed a diverse group of actors of various ethnicities, only one of whom had dwarfism. Naturally, the internet erupted. Conservatives mocked the new direction, accusing Disney of going overboard with its so-called woke adjustments. But plot twist, those stand-ins, they weren't actually the final version of the characters. It turns out Disney was planning to go full CGI for the Seven Dwarfs. From here on out, Disney may have managed to sidestep controversy, but it also ended up creating another storm, because almost no one was in favor of this move. And then came another unexpected twist. If you were expecting a glitzy, star-studded Snow White premiere with Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot chatting up reporters on the red carpet, well, think again. Instead of the usual Hollywood spectacle, Disney pulled a major switch-up. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Disney claimed they simply wanted a more celebratory vibe, one that conveniently avoided the minefield of tricky questions. And if that wasn't enough to raise eyebrows, just look at how Zegler and Gadot have been promoting the film. Separately, Zegler was seen serenading fans with a new song, Waiting on a Wish, at a picturesque castle in Spain.
I'm waiting on a wish beneath 1,000 treetops.
Meanwhile, Gadot made an appearance at Disneyland, solo. In the end, despite all the talk of modernizing the classic tale, audiences didn't exactly rush to see this new and improved version. So what now? Will Disney learn from this cautionary tale and rethink how it handles live-action remakes? Or will they keep pushing forward, regardless of the controversy? Let us know what you think in the comments.